Good evening. I'm Eliza Chapman Meredith. I was born in the town of Troy on October 17, 1893, to Wallace and Anna Chapman. I had 8 siblings, and my mother trusted me to help with the instruction of the younger kids. We were fortunate with good parents. There was lots of love and kindness in that house, and someone always wanted to help another understand. As a young woman, I attended Whitewater Normal School to complete the requirements to receive a teaching diploma. Can you believe it only took 6 weeks to study? I began my career in 1912 teaching in a one-room school near Troy Center in the Randall School District. To my chagrin, the school closed just 2 years later, but I was fortunate to find work at my alma mater, Baker School. Unfortunately, this school also closed after 2 years. At the time, there were only 3 students enrolled, so it was understandable that it had to shutter the doors. The next 5 years found me teaching at Adams and Stewart schools. People often asked me how I managed to teach children in all 8 grades in one room. Well, the older students would help me by teaching and taking care of the younger ones. I was fortunate to have my sister help me correct papers in the evening. A teacher's work is never done. In 1921, I was bitten by the love bug, and I tied the knot with my husband, Irving Meredith. In those days, married women devoted themselves to their husbands and families, and I walked away from my teaching career. I became a farmer's wife at the Meredith homestead, located on Highway 67, about a mile south of Eagle. Tragedy struck in, you guessed it, 2 years when my beloved husband, Irving, passed away. My father urged me to come home, reasoning that I would not be able to maintain the 80-acre farm on my own. I moved in with my parents, but I went right back to my former career, finding work at the school at Baker's Corners. After 6 years there, I transferred to Jericho School in 1929. I enjoyed 15 years of teaching the farm children who lived in that community. I stayed with the Walter Schaefer family instead of commuting back and forth because the roads were so bad. Folks often asked me how I was able to manage the behavior of students in my class. I found that discipline was rarely an issue. I would just take the troubled student aside and offer a quiet word of encouragement. It worked like a charm. In 1944, I was hired to teach a class of 48 students at a one-room school in Eagleville. Quite a different experience from the handful of students at Baker School from 30 years ago. After the war, it seemed many people were moving out to the country and to the lakes. Eagle Spring Lake area was growing, which increased the Eagleville school attendance. In 1941, there were 231 teachers in Waukesha County. By 1958, the figure was 902. The number of students went from 6,500 to over 20,000 in the same years. No wonder I was having trouble with all those names. But I do remember the name of Frances Onich. She was a special in her drawing ability. Her poster got first place at the Waukesha Dairy Fair. She took honors for Eagleville. The dairy show was held along the Fox River in Waukesha every year. Our students always looked forward to participating, some showing their animals, others like Frances making posters. In 1956, I retired from teaching to take care of my aging mother. Our family farm had been sold to the Girl Scouts and became Camp Chapman Hill. I hear that the camp has recently closed, but the Nature Conservancy now protects in my family's homestead as a lovely wetland of Mugwanago. I trust that they will be good stewards of the land for future generations. In 1957, I had a new house built on Park Avenue, an eagle by Arthur Judas, who sold his farm and subdivided some of the land. I continued to teach as a substitute. One of my regular jobs was for Dorothy Mason of Palmyra. I could always count on her to go deer hunting every November. After I retired, I enjoyed visits from former students, their children, and their grandchildren. I know I taught in the best of times. Those less crowded days gave me names I remember, and they will remember me too. I was an active member of the Eagle United Methodist Church, and in 1982, I was honored to receive the Outstanding Citizen Award by the Eagle Lioness. For almost a century, I lived a life of service for my family and my community. I am proud to have called Eagle my home.